I live in a relatively large town in southwestern Virginia, and there's a lot of old rundown buildings and shacks that are usually unlocked and relatively safe to enter. I mean this as in the buildings still have some support to keep the house from caving in. It was the middle of the summer, and being the edgy teenager I was, a few friends and I decided to go to an abandoned house that was just on the cusp of the woodlines next to our houses. The neighborhood this took place in always made me feel off. I've had some really weird experiences there, and I've only lived there just shy of 6 months. I get my trusty buck knife, my buddy, and his sister's boyfriend, and we go toward the house. There's a small field before you get there, and the grass is never cut, so we had to take our time and tread lightly so we wouldn't get bit by snakes that are passing through. But with every single step, I felt heavier and heavier. I felt like maybe I should go back, but I didn't want to be a wuss, and my buddy and his sister's boyfriend were having fun and joking about it, so I play along. We eventually get to the house, and it hadn't been touched in years. I emphasize years because there were boxes full of newspapers from the late 60s and early 70s that were still in place, as if the owner just decided to up and leave. We start looking around, and we're just screwing around doing what teenagers do when we all stop and look at each other. I don't know why we all thought to do that. It seemed like we were waiting for something. My buddy cracks a joke, and we all just go back to what we were doing. We look around some more, and found an old Bible that was read regularly, a couple of broken glasses, and a shattered picture of a couple that was in black and white. I noticed it and wanted to take a look, but when I reached down to it, we heard a quiet whisper of, "Get out." And we thought we were psyching ourselves out, so we just continued on. But now I'm sure we were thinking about not touching anything, and we opened the door to what I presumed to be the bedroom. It looked like someone had stripped all of the flooring. After the door, it went straight to dirt, no floor, subfloor, anything. And then we look up and see a noose hanging from a beam from the ceiling. It definitely scared me. We didn't have a word to say. We all looked at each other and I shut the door. We didn't want anything to do with that room. The building was a 2-story house and the stairs were still intact. But we noticed that there was shattered glass and blood on the steps. We started to get really freaked out at this point, but I decided to try to walk up the steps, and that's when I saw an old mason jar shattered in front of me, and a quiet whisper behind my ear that said in a low, menacing tone, "Leave now." I ran my chubby ass out the door with my friends following closely behind. I hightailed it through the field. I didn't even care about the snakes. We meet up at the end of the field at the edge of the road, and we look back at the window and saw an apparition slowly disappear at the front door. Me and my friends made a promise to never, ever set foot there again, and we haven't since. It's been 6 years since this occurred, and we're all still friends. We joke around about this now, even dubbing the Kemp House Ghost our road name, but I still get chills when I think about the words, "Leave now." I've been empathetic my entire life. When I was a toddler, I would see shadow people who came out of the wall. I called them gorillas, but the gorillas never really did anything bad other than scare me. Throughout my life, I have continued to have many experiences, and this is the most recent. I was riding my motorcycle on an abandoned road. The road led into a state-owned conservation area. The area was thick forest and brush, a very steep hill on one side, and a river on the other side, both close by to the road surface. I had been there many years before, because it was a teenage drinking and smoking party spot with a large cave. The cave had been explosively sealed by the conservation department after a series of violent crimes had occurred there. I have no idea why I wanted to revisit my teenage party spot. I stopped and viewed the expansive, beautiful scenery. I looked up at the steep hill, and 100 yards up in the brush, I saw what looked like a floating white plastic bag, or perhaps wispy cotton floating down through the trees. I watched as it came through the trees slowly, basically walking speed. It floated down directly at me, and as it got very close, it appeared more like smoke. The smoke moved from eye level to ground level, floated over the top of my shoes, floated slowly up my body back up to eye level, around 6 inches from my face, and then just disappeared. I looked all around me and it was gone, completely gone. I went home and nothing happened for a few weeks. Then the knocking started. Knocking generally was in the TV room, and my wife and I just chalked it up to a somewhat frantic settling of the house. The knocking went on and on. Finally, I had enough and started yelling at it to stop, and it mostly did. I was concerned that smoke had followed me home. I Google searched the area of the weird smoke and found an article which was the same location and time frame when I was there. This knocking continued, but slowed considerably. I suspect it slowed because the ghost now knew it had contacted me, and I was aware it was there. The knocking generally followed me from the TV room to a second bedroom that I often fell asleep in. I slept in the second bedroom because I like to go to sleep with the streaming computer on, and my wife doesn't like the TV or computer on when she sleeps. In this second bedroom, this low-level activity continued for 2 more years. Then it went to a higher level. I heard someone walking into the bedroom, and I would speak to it, convinced that it was my wife, but no one was there. One morning I awoke, contemplating my coming day when it spoke directly into my ear. I repeated the vocal sounds over and over and over and came to the conclusion that it was just nonsense gibberish. When it spoke to me, I wasn't in any way scared. It didn't feel bad. It was very creepy, but I knew it wasn't evil. A few weeks later, I had fallen asleep and felt a tremendous pain in a small area and expanded like an explosion through my head. It lasted only an instant. I shook it off and started to go back to sleep. Then the footsteps sounds and a small toy fell off the dresser. Jesus, now I was wide awake. I opened the laptop and restarted the show I had fallen asleep to. The glow of the computer screen, the spirit started to manifest and became visible. I didn't sign up for that. Immediately, I left the room and went to my other bedroom. It didn't follow me. I racked my brain what it could possibly want, so I prayed. And then it came to me. The pain in my head was what he felt when he shot himself. The ghost needed something from me. It wasn't evil. It just needed something, and I suspected I now knew. I went to the bedroom. I told him how I was sorry how it ended. I prayed to the Lord, and I told him he was forgiven by the Lord and me. He should forgive himself now, and I told him that his family awaited him and loved him even though he didn't think so. From there, I personally felt a great relief. Now, that was 2 weeks ago. There have been no knocks since, and the story is absolutely true. It was either 2010 or 2011. My husband, at the time my fiancé, moved to Spokane, Washington for our jobs. No kids, only 1 cat. We moved into Brown's Addition apartments. Most of their apartments were hardwood and had heated flooring. Not ours, though. We got an apartment with a brand new carpet and heated flooring, so win for us. When you walk on new carpet, it kind of makes a crunchy noise, almost like there's bags under the carpet. The crunching sound is most notable when you are lifting your foot up, not stepping down. The first incident occurred when my fiancé went to the spare room. Again, you can hear when someone is walking on the carpet because of the sound your foot makes. I asked him a question about the dryer vent. No response. I turned around, and he's not there. I yell his name, and he's still in the spare room, yet I heard him walk up right behind me on the carpet. I figure, whatever, and just go on with my day. About 5 months later, in the winter, I'm laying in bed reading around 1 a.m., I just couldn't put the book down. I have a little reading light, and my fiancé is asleep and my cat is sleeping on my lap. Our bedroom door is open, and I once again hear what sounds like someone walking around on the carpet in the living room. I lay my book down, and I didn't move. Kitty was sleeping, and I was just listening. It was like someone was doing circles in the living room, and then it stopped. Probably the neighbors or something else. I opened my book back up and kept reading. About 20 minutes later, I hear it again, but this time it sounds like someone walked from the living room directly to the doorway before our bedroom. This time, I was actually alarmed. I laid my book down and I see that my previously sleeping cat is now awake, alert, and staring directly at the doorway. My cat was woken up from the same noise that I had heard. I froze. I felt like my brain wasn't computing or understanding what was happening. But I felt this heavy weight of dread. And then I hear it again, and I cry out, "What the hell?" And my cat is now even more intensely looking at the doorway. I wake my fiancé up, and I make him check the entire house with me. Nothing. And the neighbors are asleep and the world is just quiet. No more incidents really happened after that. We moved out in 2012. In 2014, an article was published in Spokane, Washington about those very apartments. You can even look it up online. Apparently, the Brown Addition apartments were built on a burial ground. I'm an atheist and I don't believe in ghosts, spirits, or angels, but that story has always stuck with me as something I cannot explain. Last night, I was at my uncle's apartment watching TV. I had never seen this particular ghost, but I had had 2 encounters with another ghost, my grandfather. It was 3 a.m., and I was still watching TV. I was watching a TV show called Animal Fight Club, and that's when I caught a glimpse of a small kid just standing there. Just before my uncle went to sleep, he told me the story about a ghost with cold hands. That when somebody went to sleep, he would touch them. And they always described it as a cold touch of small hands. So when I first heard the story, I thought it was 100% true because of the way he died. A kidnapper shoved him in the freezer. So that's where the cold hands come from. The kidnapper died 3 weeks later because he hung himself. The last week of life, he was in terrible shape. When asked, he said that he couldn't sleep because of his nightmares of a kid with frozen hands touching him. So I had already had an encounter with that ghost, but this isn't the end of it. At 3:20 a.m., I heard a whisper, my name specifically. I froze as cold hands touched my neck, then played with my hair, and finally hugged me. I got up and asked 3 questions. Are you the ghost with cold hands? And the reply was an instant yes. Were you murdered in this apartment? Again, yes. And have I done something wrong? And there was silence. No answer. From there, I decided that I needed to sleep, but he wouldn't let me off so easily. At 3:30 a.m., I felt a frozen finger touching my stomach, then my neck, and then my hair again, and then trying to force my eyes open. At first, I resisted, but then curiosity got the better of me. I slowly opened my eyes and met face to face with him. A smile was drawn on his lips, a smile that was neither sad nor happy, crazy nor logical. And then he answered my final question. No, I'm here to protect you from him. The kidnapper's ghost was looking at me from the kitchen. Considering I was the only kid in the building, I knew he was coming for me. I thanked him and asked a final question. And what was your name? And he said, the ghost with cold hands. And don't worry, we'll meet again very soon. So let's flash back to 2012. I was 12 years old and not a believer in any of this stuff. My parents and I were staying in my aunt's house in Hoboken, New Jersey. It was a 3-story house that was extremely old. So old, it had a staircase that was used just for servants back in the day. Anyway, we're staying on the 3rd floor, which always gave me weird vibes, but this summer night it got crazy. My parents took the only bedroom upstairs, so I took the small living room that had a leather couch and a small TV. I felt really creeped out that night, so I kept the TV on. I heard some footsteps in the kitchen next to where I was sleeping, so I got up to see if it was one of my parents. And I saw nothing when I flipped the light on. So I laid back down and I heard the footsteps again, but this time it was closer. I got up again, flipped the light, and once again there was nothing. But this time it felt like someone was looking at me, but I once again wasn't a believer, so I just went back to the couch and flipped the light off. The TV was still on, which casted some light. I finally got tired and let out a yawn and cleared my throat. Right after that happened, a voice in the doorway went, "Shh," and the TV went to a white static screen at full volume. I froze. I felt something looking at me in the doorway, but I didn't have the guts to look. I felt it staring at me all night, and I remained frozen just staring at the static TV. Once the sun started to come up, the presence lifted and the TV went back to normal, and that had to be one of the scariest experiences in my entire life, safe to say. I've been a believer ever since. Hey there, friends. I hope you enjoyed this lovely collection of paranormal stories. Always a good time with these, right? Always fun, always low prices, Walmart. What? Anyway, if you like these stories and would like content like this or content that is so vastly different, it is like comparing stockings to springs, please consider joining the Nevermore. To join the Nevermore, all you gotta do is hit that subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. Doing so makes you part of the Nevermore, and you will have my undying love because of it. You can also support the growth of the Nevermore by doing things like following me on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, or supporting me through Patreon or Ko-fi. All of these optional, every one of them greatly appreciated, and I just want to say thank you to every one of you because I love you guys more than you'll ever know. You have my undying love. You have my undying love. That's it. Yeah, I love you guys, okay? And I want you all to be happy, and I want you all to have a great day and a great week. And all that said, I'll see you on the next video. But until then, much love and sleep well.